Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving y'all my Season 8 predictions for, obviously, Season 8 of NBA 2K21 MyTeam. And with Season 7 being right about to end, I will say, just real quickly before we hop into this video, that I think that Season 7 was one of, if not the most successful seasons so far this year of MyTeam. I loved the fact that they dropped content every single day and dropped a ton of really good free cards that could be grinded for and added to people's teams throughout the season, and I hope to see that continue throughout Season 8. Hopefully, again, it's a short season. 4 weeks would be perfect, maybe even 5 if y'all want to extend it a little bit, but I don't think the six-week season is necessary. Also, I just think that the daily content is really huge for the game and helps content creators produce more content and better content, and also helps the general players and the general population to be more interested in the game. And obviously the free cards do that as well, with helping the general public be more interested in the game. But also, one other thing before we hop into it, if you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help us get to the 2,000 subscriber mark, slowly but surely trying to push towards that. And I really appreciate all the recent support on the videos. Without further ado, let's hop right into it and take a look at my predictions. So, starting off with the Ascension Reward predictions. That is the first reward that I'm going to be going over today, and in my personal opinion, we're going to get another old-time player, just like we've gotten all year. None of these players are current players, and a guy who I think that we haven't gotten a good card of, who is would fit this type of mold perfectly, of like non-huge name old players, but guys who had decent careers, like Sidney Moncrief, Adrian Dantley, etc., Bill Walton, would be a guy like Terry Cummings. I think Terry Cummings is one of those guys who very much flies under the radar for the success of his career, but also probably will not be all that good of a card in 2K, and I could 100% see him being an Ascension Reward in this game. In terms of the exchange rewards, another guy who I think will be another not huge name, similar to who were the exchange reward this last season, Louis Dampier. If we were to get Dan Issel was an exchange reward, Elton Brand, Rudy LaRusso, those were like the Lou Hudson, those were like the base Ascension Rewards, and I do expect that we will get another Dark Matter Exchange Reward this season. And a guy who I think it could be is a guy like Carlos Boozer. Carlos Boozer played in a very similar time as Elton Brand, and I think he's another one of those guys who's like a decent mid-level name, who's remembered for being a solid NBA player, but not the most desirable type of card in the game, which seems to be the theme with exchange cards this year, at least the ones that are dropped at the beginning of the season. Moving on to the next category, we have Opal Token Rewards, and I think that the Opal Token Rewards, again, are not like the most exciting cards in the world. It's got Bob, this year it's Bob Lanier, Steve Smith, Gary Payton was good for his time, as was Moses Malone, but none of these guys are, again, huge names, super exciting cards in 2K. Obviously, Gary Payton and Moses Malone are big names, but none of these cards are super exciting cards in the game. But I do think that we could get a solid Opal Token Reward card, and a guy who I kind of think might be an option, a guy who really haven't seen a card of in several months, would be a guy like Gilbert Arenas. I think we could definitely get a Gilbert Arenas card in the Opal Token market, or even the Dark Matter Token market for that matter. See what I did there, Dark Matter. But I do think that Gilbert Arenas is the type of guy who we could definitely see in the token market for Opal. In terms of Dark Matter Token Rewards, on the other hand, the two that we've gotten so far are Bill Walton and Pete Maravich. Again, just like a lot of the themes with the rewards so far, two older players, two non-current players, obviously, and guys who are big names, decent cards, but not like incredibly exciting, over the top, likely to sell packs. And another guy who will do that, who I think could be a very good card in the game, a T-Mac clone, a DeMar DeRozan clone type, that player like that, who I think people would like, but again is not a game-breaking card by any means, or one of the best cards in the game, would be a Dark Matter Walter Davis. I think we could get a Dark Matter Walter Davis in the token market, and people would like that card. People who have grinded a lot of tokens would definitely use him, but I just don't think he'd be an elite option. That seems to be the theme of these Dark Matter Token Rewards so far. Hopping back into the more exciting rewards that we could see this season, I do think we'll get the final Domination. We were promised 6 Dominations this year, and I do believe that we'll get the final one this season. And I think that it could very likely have something to do with the playoffs, just because we're smack dab in the middle of the playoffs right now, and I personally think that it will therefore be a current player in all likelihood that we're going to get from Domination. We haven't gotten one yet this year, but I do believe it just kind of makes sense to me that if it's playoff related, we'll get a current player for the final reward from the Domination. Obviously, I could definitely be wrong, but based off of me going on that, a guy who jumps off the page at me as a guy who hasn't gotten a Dark Matter card yet, and I do believe this will be a Dark Matter, which I'd be shocked if it isn't, would be a Devin Booker type card. I think Devin Booker is a solid option. He's a good wing, good fun card to use. use people like Devin Booker a lot. I don't expect he'd be a game-breaking card again by any means, but he'd be another solid dark matter shooting guard who a lot of people would like to add to their lineups for free. Then moving on to the next couple of categories, we have Triple Threat Online, Triple Threat Offline, and starting with Triple Threat Offline, this season we got Gerald Wilkins and Larry Keenan in the vault, two guys who, again, old-time players, not massive names, but decent cards, and I think another guy who we're going to get in the vault this next season is Dark Matter Jack Sigma. We haven't gotten Jack Sigma card since his Pink Diamond Locking card a pretty decent while ago. I think that was probably season 4 that we got that Jack Sigma. And he was a good card for his time, and I think Sigma would be a great stretch big. They'd likely give him some pretty good dribble sigs and pretty good slashing badges as well in defense, so I think he'd actually be a very, very solid card, a very usable card in the game, and I think with his solid release, people would like a Jack Sigma card a lot. Also, looking at Triple Threat Online this season, we got Bailey Howell. He was the only Triple Threat card that we got, but he was basically Tracy McGrady at the small forward position. Really, really solid card. Yeah, Tracy McGrady released on very quick, and I do expect that we'll get another good Triple Threat card. Most of the last few Triple Threat cards have been good for their time, whether it be Howell, Julius Randle, Ron Harper, the Triple Threat Online cards, I mean, obviously. And a guy who I think we could get, since we haven't gotten a current player since Julius Randle, which was a while ago in the Triple Threat Online boards, is a guy like Zach LaVine. I think we could definitely see a Zach LaVine card. He hasn't gotten a card. He did get an Opal, I believe, but he hasn't gotten a Dark Matter card yet this year. He had a really, really solid year, kind of flew under the radar a little bit, and everybody loves his cards in 2K. He's, again, a Tracy McGrady clone, which is actually interesting because I wasn't intending that based off of him and Bailey Howell both being Tracy McGrady clones. We just haven't gotten a good card of him yet, and I think that he would fit very, very nicely in Triple Threat Online. Then, moving on to Limited. This season we got Elgin Baylor, who was one of the best Limited rewards that we've gotten all year. I think Elgin was a very, very solid Limited reward in all honesty. And the last couple of limited rewards have been historic players, being Elgin, Richard, Pau Gasol, but we also have gotten a few of current ones this year: Aaron Gordon, Jaylen Brown, Russell Westbrook. Those 3 were current players, and I do expect that we very well might get another current player, since we've gotten 4 non-current players, 3 current players in Limited this year. It just makes sense to me that we get another current player to keep that even, or at least that's the thought process that I'm going off of. And another guy who's a current player who's had a very good year, has had very good cards in the past in 2K, but hasn't gotten a card better than Pink Diamond this year, is Karl-Anthony Towns. I think we're past due for a Karl-Anthony Towns card. I know a lot of people love Karl-Anthony Towns, namely TyDeBo, but a lot of other people like his cards in 2K. I think with his release on very quick, he could be a solid stretch big. I assume they'd make him very, very juiced badge wise, and I think he'd be another super solid free card for people to grind for this next season, who also would have a decent amount of hype behind his name. Not crazy amount, but a decent amount of hype. And then hopping into the rewards that everybody cares about, you have your unlimited rewards, which, to be completely honest, this year the unlimited rewards have been a little bit disappointing, but Larry Johnson was a very good card. We also got TJ Warren this season, but Larry Johnson was the card that we got this season. We've also gotten Michael Redd, Cedric Maxwell, a lot of historic players. None of these players are current players with the exception of Iggy, but even this Iggy card is from his time on the Sixers, which was a decade ago. So I do think that we will get another historic player in Unlimited, because they've shown no signs of giving us any current players in Unlimited this year. And a guy who I think we could get, and I'm not sure if he'll be an Invincible card or not, but I think it's possible that we get an Invincible card in Unlimited this season, but I don't think it'll be a great card. The guy who I think we get in Unlimited this next season is Jason Kidd. And he may be an Invincible card, he may be an Invincible card, and he may not, but he hasn't gotten a card better than Pink Diamond all year. And if they change his release, he'll be a solid card, really, really good defender. They could make him good on offense as well. He'll be a good slasher. He'll be a little bit undersized. Again, I don't think he'll be super great and worth grinding for, which really none of the unlimited cards, with the exception of maybe Larry Johnson, Cedric Maxwell, maybe McHale, were worth grinding, but none of them have been like the best card at the game at their position, really, with the exception of McHale for a short time. But I think the Jason Kidd will be a solid card. I think people who like Jason Kidd and enjoyed watching him in the NBA would like that card. I just don't think he'd be crazy good, but I think if they change the release, he could be super solid, and especially if he's an Invincible card, people would be very, very likely to grind for a card like that. Then finally, we have the level 40 reward, who obviously is what we're really, really excited about. And I have a couple different possibilities for this level 40 reward. This past season, we got Vince Carter, but this next season, in Season 8, I would be absolutely stunned. And I mean stunned if it's not an Invincible card for level 40 next season. And I think it's going to be a center. There are a few guys who I think that the Invincible center could be for level 40. And I'm going to list off 3 names. One of them is Wilt Chamberlain. One of them is Hakeem Olajuwon. One of them is Dirk Nowitzki. I think we could get an Invincible Hakeem, Dirk, or Wilt. I don't expect that we'll get an Invincible Yao or an Invincible Kareem, even though I do expect that those cards are coming at some point, just because I think those cards are really, really good for selling packs. Whereas a guy like Wilt, Hakeem, Dirk, not quite as likely to sell as many packs. So I do expect that those are the types of cards that I think could be really, really, really good center options, especially if they're available on day one, similar to the way that Vince Carter was. But obviously would not be like game breaking in terms of their domination or anything like that, just because Wilt's release isn't all that great. And guys like Hakeem, also not the best release. And I think Dirk, he doesn't have the biggest player build, and his release again is solid, but not game breaking by any means. So yeah, that's kind of my prediction for the level 40 reward, is that we'll get an Invincible center, likely one of Wilt, Hakeem, or Dirk. So yeah, those are my predictions. I'm going to go back over them real quickly just so y'all can know at the end who I predicted for everybody. For Ascension, I had Terry Cummings. For Exchange, I had Carlos Boozer. For Opal token reward, I had Gilbert Arenas. For Dark Matter token reward, I had, well, Walter Davis, and I think those two could easily switch as well. Like get an Opal, Walter Davis, and a Dark Matter, Gilbert Arenas. Also a Domination reward of Devin Booker, a triple threat card of Jack Sigma, and a triple threat online card of Zach LaVine. Limited being Karl Anthony Towns, unlimited being Jason Kidd, possibly Invincible, possibly not, we'll see. And then an Invincible center, whether it's Wilt, Hakeem, or Dirk as the level 40 reward. So yeah, those are my predictions for season 8. I'm interested to see if any of them come true. I'm recording this video before we've gotten any leaks, so I'm just interested to see if I wind up getting any of these predictions correct or even close to correct. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. But if you did enjoy this video, please make sure you leave it a like, leave a comment as well. Let me know what you think of the video, what you think my predictions and what your predictions are for season 8 of my team. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, to help us slowly push towards that 2,000 subscriber mark, 5,000 hopefully down the road at some point, but 2,000 subscriber mark for right now. And I really appreciate all the recent support, and I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.